What's up, everybody? This is Jay, and welcome to the Empire Season 5, Episode 15 recap for a wise father that knows his own child. Let's get into it. Now, when the episode starts, we see Lucius and Cookie in the front row of church, and we see Terry up top, and she's on stage, and she's saying a couple of good words, and then she welcome in Pastor Cavassier. He comes on in, he's all happy, he gets up there, he starts preaching the word. He's talking about how everybody need to get their house in order and do things that get themselves right with the Lord. And Lucia's starting to feel the word and he listening. Cookie, she halfway listening, but she's salty. And Terry, she just feeling it all the way. She just all the way into it. And so then the pastor, he say, welcome in Miss Jenkins. And nobody better talk bad about Miss Jenkins. And so Miss Jenkins come on stage, she starts singing, and she's singing real good. And everybody getting the Holy Ghost, and Terry is happy and smiling, and Lucius is all into it, and Cookie is trying to let herself feel something, but she ain't all the way into it. And then it's all said and done, and it was all good. Meanwhile, they go back home. Andre's sick, and they say, man, Andre, you would have been proud of Terry. She was good. She spoke up for you. And everybody in the church is praying. And so he said, yeah, it was amazing. She's really good. And she's smiling and just giving him strength. She a real good woman. And Andre trying to smile and be happy, but something ain't right with him. And then Cookie say, Andre, can I get you something, baby? And then Terry say, Cookie, we got him. I got him. I'll take care of him. She say, all right, well, we'll be upstairs if you need us, baby. And he say, all right, Ma. And then Terry is talking with Andre and just saying that how, whispering sweet nothings in his ear and giving him support and holding his hand. Meanwhile, they cut to upstairs and we see Cookie and Lucius talking, and he's saying about they need to support Andre, and she's saying, I just don't know, Lucius. I can't lose Andre. He say, you can't do that. You can't be negative. And she say, I just don't want to bury my baby. And he said, look, you gotta stop that. You can't do that. You gotta do that. You gotta be positive, man. And she say, well, I gotta be positive. And he said, maybe I should get an order like the Reverend say, and maybe talk with Kingsley. Maybe that'll bring some good karma. And she got salty. She say, I gotta listen to you go on and on about Kingsley, but I can't talk about my baby. And then she started wiping her eyes, and he say, what you doing? She say, I'm going to work. I gotta meet with Carol about this concert. And she walks out. And then meanwhile, we see Jamal, and he coming in, and we see Kai coming on the Sugarfoot, running towards him, and he got his little chesticles hanging out, and he try to grab him and molest his chest or whatever, and he like, I'm sorry, babe, I can't do it. He like, what? Come here, give me some. He said, wait a minute, what about when we get married? Who's gonna wear the tux? He said, no, you're gonna wear the tux. No. He said, look, did I spoil the mood? Is this date night? This is supposed to be date night. Oh, come here. Let me get on there. And so next thing you know, we see Cookie, and she knocking on the door. And next thing you know, Dame Dash open up the door. And then she breaks out a nice little smile. And he smiles because he know once again it's on. He about to get another crack at that ass. So he lets her on in. Meanwhile, we see Angie. She's in there working on the case, and she's talking to Kingsley about being a snitch. He like, why would I help you frame Lucius Lyon, set him up? And she's like, look, all you got to do is wear the wire. You're smarter than him. He said, but we don't play catch in the park. He ain't gonna believe me. She said, don't you want to be the one that brings him down after what he did to you and your family? And so he looking at it, he said, you know what? How's this thing work? Meanwhile, we see Cookie. She just got through eating a little dinner. She working on some dessert, and she say, oh man, I can't stand to bury a child. I don't know what to do. And he said, look, it's all right, Cookie. It's understandable. I mean, you can't be the tough guy. That's what I had to do. You just got to feel it. And she said, yeah, but Lucius said we got to be positive, this and that. He said, no, what you got to do is just be there for your son. Just be there in the moment. And there's nothing more you can do, and she starts smiling, and she happy that somebody is listening to her. Meanwhile, we see Terry, and she there for Andre, tucking him in, being there for him, and she said, everybody's praying for you, Andre. And he said, you know what, that's great and all, but me and God, we don't necessarily get along. She said, you don't believe, Andre? He said, well, actually, that's not the case. I do believe. And one time, me and God used to be boys, but we didn't get along. I mean, I tried to do everything for him, and he took everything. She said, what do you mean? He took my wife. He took my child. And I can't get with that, so I don't want nothing to do with God. And she said, look, Andre, I know things may happen, but God doesn't take from you. He said, look, you just gonna have to accept that. She said, I don't have to accept it, but I'm gonna leave it, let it go. And she give him a little kiss and support him. Meanwhile, Lucius come in and White Terry say, well, I didn't know you was on stopping by basis. He said, look, I want to talk to you about our son, okay? Look here, man. Why don't you help me build the bridge between our sons? She said, what? After all you did to me? He said, what you mean what I did to you? About the son that we had that you didn't tell me about? You know what you did. You had me on those drugs. You did it. And he said, what you mean? I told you don't do it. And against all of my advice, you didn't listen. She said, but you were so fly back then. You was always so fly. I used to think we'd have a kid in a big house and get married, and I guess 1 out of 3 isn't bad, huh? He said, look, help me build the bridge for me and my son, man. Okay? Help me. She said, look, it'll be his choice, but I'll talk to him. And he said, that's all I ask. And then he leaves. Meanwhile, we see on the other side of town, Becky, she's going to talk with Hakeem. And so she's walking through backstage. Hakeem is sitting there eating Cheetos. And she like, you ain't saying me none. Meanwhile, Devon, his album is really great. I helped make it great. And I was thinking maybe you could help with the launch and help break him out. And he said, nah, I'm good. I did that with Blake and it brought a lot of drama. She like, well, a lot of that drama was kind of your fault. And so why don't you stop thinking? He said, nah, I'm going to focus on myself. She said, ain't that what you always do? So what about it? And he pretty much was ignoring her while he was eating the chips. She like, so you really not gonna save me none either? That big old bowl. Okay, I see how it is. I guess we done here. All right, later. And so she was mad because she was matching with the Cheetos dress too. And so meanwhile, we see Cookie and she talking with her sister. She said, where my check? Like, what check? She said, Lucia said we was working on this concert together, so where my check? She said, oh, you didn't tell him. She said, I didn't tell him nothing. She said, look, Lucius wouldn't understand. I just need to talk with Damon Cross. And she said, so you still talking with another man? That means something going on. She said, everybody ain't like you. He just able to listen and Lucius can't understand. Meanwhile, we see Lucius and he talking with Thirsty Cosby Jr. And then we see Kingsley walk in. And Kingsley, he said, can I talk with you? Lucius said, yeah, man, give me a second, Thirst. And so they hug up. He like, how you doing? He said, Lucius, how's everything? He said, it's all right now, man. We good now. I had to put out a few fires. He said, I apologize for that. He said, hey, look, we all made mistakes, but we good now. And he said, yeah, Lucius, I mean, I could learn a lot from you. This last tour, I mean, it was a masterclass. I mean, like, how were you able to pull that off? It was remarkable. I have to give you credit. He like, well, I try to do what I do, man. And he said, well, tell me, how did you pull together the concert? I mean, it's not like people are giving Empire loans these days. I mean, what is it, cash infusion from overseas or something? I mean, how'd you do it? He just sounded so obvious, and Lucius is catching on, and he like, I mean, I could learn a lot. How did you do it, Lucius? What happened? And he said, you know what? He was thinking about it. He peeped game. He said, I got a meeting I got to get to. He like, right now? He said, yeah, I'll talk to you later, man. And he gave him a little hug or whatever, and he leave, and Thirsty come back in. He say, so what happened? What was he talking about? You all good? He say, I think he working with the feds, man. He trying to set me up. Meanwhile, back at the Empire residence, we see everybody's sitting there waiting for the doc to come through. And so Doc Mario is sitting here telling them of news. He said, "How you feeling, Andre?" He said, "Well, I don't know. I'm still feeling bad." He said, "Well, that means it's good. It means that the medicine is working and you'll be ready for phase 2 of the trials." And everybody like, "What? For real?" He said, "Yeah, you may be able to be cancer free." And then everybody starts celebrating and thanking God, and everybody happy. And Andre say, "Yeah, let's not forget Western medicine too." He didn't want to give God no credit. Meanwhile, we see Kingsley going to meet up with Mommy Dearest, and he said, "So, Lucius was here to see me. He was trying to kiss up to me and get back together with me. You believe him?" And he said, "Really? That's what he did?" She said, "Yeah, after he got me hooked on those drugs. We did them together. He the one got me on the drugs." He said, "He told me he never touched the stuff. So what are you talking about?" She said, "He's a liar, okay? He's a liar. He got me on the drugs. He was doing them all the time." He said, "But he said he was just a hustler." Who are you going to believe, me or him? He told me that if I didn't get rid of you, he was going to beat you out of me. That's what he told me. When I told him that I was pregnant with you, he's just a liar. Now, give me a hug and a kiss, and now go tell that lazy nurse to come and give me something to help me sleep. Go ahead, be a good boy." And as he walked, he kind of realized, man, mama's a junkie. Meanwhile, we see the concert kicking off in Philly. And so we see Tiana looking beautiful and sexy as ever, and she on stage and she's welcoming out Devon. And so he come on out and he waved to the crowd. He give her a little hug real quick, and then he starts singing while he looking deep into her eyes, gazing. And as she walk off, he's still locked on to her, which is understandable. And she looking back though, and so it seemed like they may have a little romantic relationship brewing. And so while he's singing, she right there on the side staring him down. And then we see Hakeem looking right at her, pissed, salty. Meanwhile, Cookie celebrating, popping bottles with Damon Cross, celebrating that Andre is doing better. And so he's like, "To Andre, and my baby is doing better. Ooh, and I didn't know you a chef, huh? You could cook." He said, "Well, I just thought this was that special type of occasion, And then Cookie get up looking amazing in this dress, going over to the couch to sit down, and he just smiling, all smiles, and she smiles. He said, "Well, we never thought we would be here, but we doing all right, baby?" And then she heard that baby, and it started making her think about what her sister said, and it made her think about when she was saying, "You leaning on one man for support and living with another, that's a threat to your marriage." And then she remembered when she was kissing Cookie Lucius at that wedding, and she said, "You know what? I'm not supposed to be here. I'm sorry." And he said, What you mean, babe? What's going on?" She said, "You know what? You were there for me when I needed you, and I thank you, but I need to go." He said, "Now look, we both know Lucius can't give you what I can." She said, "That may not be the case, but Lucius is hurting too, and I should be there with him. I gotta go." And she leave him hanging. Meanwhile, we see Devon singing, and Maya, she peeps that Hakeem is staring at Tiana. And so then she sees that Blake Griffin with the little Thunderbolt shirt looking like Shazam, she sees that there's an opportunity to move up on Hakeem to make him jealous. So she's saying, "Hey, don't be looking with them puppy dog eyes. It's not a good look." He like, "I ain't worried about her." She said, "Good." Meanwhile, Lucius is playing the piano like the Phantom of the Opera back at Empire. And then we see Kingsley walk in. He said, "Tell me the story of how Tracy met Lucius." And he said, "Well, I'll tell you, man." He said, "Tell me about how you left us and you wanted me dead." He said, "I didn't say that. She never told me about that. But I tell you, I was selling drugs, and he said, I thought that the stuff I was selling was clean." He said, "And that's big of you, isn't it?" He said, "No, that's not. That was messed up." He said, "How can I believe you?" He said, "Because I admit what I do is wrong. I admit when I'm wrong." He said, "But what? How do I know that you're telling the truth? I mean, she told me you wanted me dead. And then he said, nah, never commit that sin. And then he showed the bracelet where he had the microphone, and Lucius started crying, and he take the bracelet off, and then he put it in his hand. He said, I've committed many sins, Mike, but not being there for my kids is one sin I have never committed, Mike. So let's make this happen. Allow me to be your father. It's not too late. He start crying. Okay. And so they hug up crying together. Meanwhile, he go to see Angie. She says, so I see you done changed, huh? You changed your mind? I heard that. He said, look, you a lion now? He said, I may not be a lion, but I'm not a snitch. She said, well, let me tell you something. I'm coming for all of you. So you just make sure you know I'm going to bring you all down. And then he walk away looking like, oh, okay, Angie, we'll see how that works. Meanwhile, back at the Lucius Lion house, they all ready for dinner to celebrate that Andre doing better. And next thing you know, Lucius walk in with Kingsley. And that just spoiled the mood. Cookie about to damn near, drop her face on the floor. Andre, he shook. He can't believe Kingsley walked in the door. And then Lucius like, look here, man, this is my son. And I want to have him be here with us for dinner. So please allow us our time to heal, please. And so he gets ready to sit down. He said, I know I've caused a lot of problems, and I'm sorry, and I apologize. I know it's going to be a while to make it right, but I apologize. And so everybody just staring at him like, I know he didn't. Meanwhile, Cookie just guzzling down that wine. She just can't believe what she just saw and heard. She didn't drink that whole thing. She like, Juanita, I need some more. She said, right away. Yes, right away, girl. And Lucius is looking like, come on, Cookie, don't act the monkey now. And so then she like, well, I need to be consulted about who come to my dinner table. But since my baby is doing better and we gonna celebrate that, I'm gonna go ahead and we gonna say, let's move on from here. And everybody starts smiling and stuff. And then Jamal say, well, I got an announcement. I want to announce that me and Kai are going to just go ahead and get married. We're tired of the tux. I'm just ready to jump the groom, or rather jump the broomstick, you know what I'm saying, and spin. So let's go ahead. Let's just do it. Let's not worry about tuxes, okay? Let's do it. And everybody tip glasses and celebrate. Meanwhile, we see the feds raiding the trust tour. Becky coming back pissed because she had to cut her lunch break short. She like, what is this going on? And Angie said, you know what? We're going to take you down, Becky. She said, no. This is crazy. She said, well, your old boss, he is back to drug dealing. She said, no, he ain't. And who going to reimburse me for cutting my lunch short, huh? You? Who? And then she said, look, tell everybody the trust tour is over right now, okay? And then she walks off, and Becky like, oh my goodness, that is bogus. And so they just pretty much end the episode with Angie trying to set him up as he's being the drug dealer. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they going to put this as who's in the casket. I don't know. They said that Jamal wasn't going to be in the last few episodes. I don't know what they going to make him go on a honeymoon with Kai or something. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's only one episode left, so we'll see how it works out. In the end, I want to thank everybody that support my work at patreon.com. And also, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Hit that like, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.